Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Outside Insider podcast here on Philly Sports Network with myself, Liam Jenkins. You know the score by now. All things Eagles related, the last 7 days wrapped up and put inside a nice cup of mulled wine. If you don't have mulled wine in America, you probably do, but in case you don't, get a bottle of wine, stick it in the micro. I mean, take the wine out of the bottle first, okay? Let's not be putting glass bottles inside microwaves. But it's hot wine, it's festive, and it's Christmas. My PSN season Christmas sweater is on the way. That's been shipped, so I'll be flexing that all next week and making sure you all know how festive I definitely am, because there's one thing I'm good at, it's bloody being festive. You can hear it in my voice, right? I see things with Christmas, I literally get to about the third week of December and then go 110%. Anything before that, I'm the most, Scrooge anti-Christmas person ever. And then, you see the first Christmas film and you're all in from then on. So, we'll see a festive transition, I'm sure. Maybe I'll get, a little tree for the office. But there's a lot to talk about today with regards to the Eagles. Some people are high after that, not like that. Some people are high after the Giants loss. Some people a little bit low, a little bit critical of the first half. And I don't blame them. There was a lot to be critical about. But having just watched Charlton, bless them, conceded in the 90th minute for the second time in a row, I'm a lot higher on the Eagles than I am then. So, I think with that game, I'm talking about the Eagles here, I tried to stay level-headed. I came out of that, and I think it's very easy to go, oh my god, it's just the Giants, they only had 2 wins, they're a train wreck, it was Eli, the win doesn't matter. It's very easy on the opposite vein to go, oh my god, season saved, off we go. But I do think there's a healthy middle ground, and I also think that somehow, believe it or not, the Eagles needed to go through that. I think they needed to go through the absolute train wreck they've been through in order to find an identity. And I've spoken about this a lot in recent weeks. I've called it top of the mountain syndrome. I don't know if that's the actual term for it or not. But, sort of when you get to the ultimate pinnacle of your career or the ultimate goal you've been working for, if you've had tunnel vision on a goal for so damn long and you finally attain it, it's hard to find that drive again. And I think we've seen the Eagles struggle with that. The targets on the back didn't work. And if I'm repeating myself, I am very sorry. We've got to set the scene up here for another LJ analogy. And I think that if you achieve that, hard to drive that energy again. It's hard on a head coach to rally those players. Not all of them have achieved that Super Bowl. For some players, and as Orlando Scandrick said, that was their first taste of the NFL, winning a Super Bowl. That was their first experience, and they now have to come back from that. It's easy then that when you have Nick Foles come in 2018 to be that almost catalyst that sparks the energy again and to find that magic that the team can rally around. That magic wasn't there this year. The fairy tale had gone and it was back to reality. And it was a harsh reality for the Eagles. It was one of, well, how were they before the Super Bowl run? There were games they lost in heartbreaking ways before the Super Bowl run and after that. And there were 3 players to me that stood out. I mentioned this on Monday and This Week in Philadelphia Sports, whose journeys I think really gave this team some energy. And the thing I compare it to, for a classic LJ analogy, right on brand here, would be, I think we've all taken stuff for granted. Forget being at the top of the mountain, forget achieving something you've worked so hard to, and then not finding the drive after that. Because not everyone can relate to that. It's very difficult, especially, even if I said I could relate to it. The fact that I've not hit the ultimate aim in my profession, in the NFL, that is the ultimate goal, is a Super Bowl. Once you've done that, you can't get higher. All you can do is defend it and stay at the top of the mountain. The only way is down, right? So, I think a much easier way to put it would be that I think we've all taken stuff for granted, okay? Whether it's a life situation, whether it's a relationship, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's an inanimate object, maybe it's your subscription to Netflix and it runs out one week and you're left going, oh, what the hell do I binge watch now? I've got to watch Liam's content on YouTube. Oh no, what a shame, right? It's easy to take stuff for granted, but it's not until... I know the saying is that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. I would say scratch that. It's not until someone slaps you in the face with what you're missing that you realise what you need to do to get it back. And I think that's very fair. If, let's say, you take someone, a person for granted, a friend or someone else or someone you don't talk to anymore, and then you see them hanging out with someone else and you're like, well, they're having loads of fun and I'm just here... Ow, that sucks. I missed that. Wow, what we had was so cool. Or in a relationship, we've all been there, you pie it off, they go on with someone better, or you go on with someone better, and the other person's like, wow, oh my god, I really took that for granted. That sucks. Damn, what I wouldn't do to give that a shot, right? We've all been there. I think for the Eagles, those 3 players, I'm talking about Joshua Perkins, I'm talking about Boston Scott, I'm talking about Sidney Jones, you can throw Greg Ward into there if you want. they did that to the rest of this team. Because I don't think the Eagles really realised how much I don't think they valued the team they had, the environment they had, the culture they had, the winning ways that they had. You don't appreciate winning when you're winning. It's like, yeah, we win, on to the next one. Yeah, we win, this is cool. Yeah, humble, great. Then it comes and gets ripped away from you and you panic. And you had a head coach panicking, trying to find a new identity. It was guaranteeing ways and wins against Dallas. You had them cutting veterans. You had anonymous sources. There was no accountability. You had players-only meetings that apparently weren't players-only meetings, that were players-only meetings. You had padded practice where one player, Malcolm Jenkins, wasn't happy about it. It's very weird. And you try and panic and find a way to go, no, we get it, we haven't got it because of this guy or that guy or injuries or this or that. And it's not until someone steps up and slaps you in the face with what you had before that you realise, okay, we've got to get this back. Right? Boston Scott. Perfect example. Joined the Eagles in December of last year. If you've been around for a while, I'm a big time Boston Scott stan. There's me driving the bus, that's on Twitter now. His OTA training was absolutely excellent. He was set to be the team's primary punt returner. Many assumed he would make the final 53 roster. Before we even got to training camp, he was picked to be the Darren Sproles replacement. And Doug Peterson went out and called him the baby Darren Sproles. What happened is that the team then went and brought Darren Sproles back. So for Boston Scott, he sat there, then being demoted to the practice squad, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then he gets a couple opportunities like against Minnesota and Dallas, but realistically there was nothing he could do out of this world with them. And then he comes in with the season about to fall to pieces against a team who were awful against the run, and the Eagles couldn't find much ground. And Boston Scott rips them to shreds. And it wasn't the runs, it wasn't the receptions, it wasn't the touchdowns, it wasn't anything technical that I took away from that game most. I know there's a film room on there which goes into all of that, so go and have a look at that on the YouTube channel. But for me, it was the swagger. It was the drive. It was that after every run, he got up and he looked seething. He was raging. He was so fired up that it's like, why is no one else here? Like, why am I carrying this? Why is it me? Like, why is no one else? And there was that, you could feel it. That almost like LeBron James, that Russell Westbrook back in OKC, that I'll do it myself then. I'll go up and I'll do it, and I'll own the moment, and I'll be the guy, and this is my time, because I've sat in that dark for too long. And the Eagles lost that. They really lost that. And I think if you are an offensive lineman, if you're a quarterback, if you're a wide receiver, and you see someone playing with that much heart, thinking, we had that before. That was us in 2017. We were the underdog. We were backs against the wall. That team had an identity, had a drive for one another to just kill the man in front of us and win a game, and that's gone. And we got soft, and we got complacent, and we couldn't play to the final whistle, and we blew assignments. And you see someone come up with that much assertion, and we're not talking Jalen Mills chicken level swagger bollocks, alright? We're talking like fired up, tensing his arm so hard a vein could have popped. That was my main takeaway. You've got Sidney Jones, who after a rollercoaster season, which I genuinely think he's been scapegoated a bit, I don't think he's as bad as everyone thinks he is. Like, having watched the tape from every game, I really don't think he's the worst corner on the roster. That honour belongs to Ronald Darby, who I'm sure, I'm not going to milk it. I'm not going to say I was right, because that's not my brand at all. Huh? What? He said that. But genuinely, Sidney Jones, who got benched. There was one game against Minnesota where Doug Peterson said, he's going to play through injuries like the other veterans because Malcolm can do it. So he goes out to play through an injury and gets absolutely bullied by Adam Thielen, gets pulled from the game, and Malcolm Jenkins is like, we don't want little bitches on this team. Well, he didn't say that, but something along those lines. You know how it is. He's on bench. He doesn't play a snap for 5 weeks. Rasul Douglas comes out with an injury. Jones goes up to the line in that game against the Giants. Big third down in the second half. Eagles beginning to find some momentum, and with the most heart you've ever seen him play with, he was grippy, he was grabby, he was sticky in that route, and he made it work, and he made a play, and he sparked life, and the whole team was euphoric for him, and they ran over and congratulated him as if he had just broken up a pass at the end of Super Bowl 52. It was that much, like the energy was that raw, because they knew what he'd been through. That's an underdog. That's someone that's been pushed to the curb over and over again and got back up and kept pushing. And the veterans, the Ronald Darby's on this team, what you don't see that. You don't see it. And I think the Eagles lost that raw energy, that raw hunger on defense. It was gone. I think you can say the same for Joshua Perkins. I think you can say the same for Halapoulivaati Vaitai, who has been dismissed, who has been linked with trade rumours forever because he's not a starter. Yet he is the most valuable offensive lineman, in my opinion, as a backup they've had in ages. I'm not going to say obviously valuable in terms of finances, but without Big V to take over from a PED suspended Lane Johnson at right tackle, to take over from Jason Peters 1 year later, to get them through a playoff run, to win them a championship game and hold Everson Griffin sackless, to come in a year later, to come in now and just hold the fort while those bigger guys are down. Like, you don't find that level of capability in many places, and that's taken for granted. And yet V comes out and does it again. And that Miles Sanders run, that one Miles Sanders run that pushed him all the way inside the 5, was because of a Big V block. If that block didn't happen, you would have been looking at maybe a slightly longer play the next one. Carson Wentz, who wasn't on this team during he was on the team, but he was injured during the Super Bowl run. He had to take over that game. He had to step up. There was no Olshon. There was no Deshaun. There was no Nelson Aguilar. And this is the first time he's had that. Before that, it was NDSU. Championship winning teams throughout. It was nothing but success for them. Right? You then go to the Eagles. After a good rookie year, season 2 win the Super Bowl. Next season they make the playoffs without him. He had to take ownership. He had to step up. And do you know what? I don't care if it was against the Giants, if it was against the Niners, if it was against the Seahawks, if it was against the Patriots. I don't care who it came against. That had to happen. Carson Wentz had to step up. He had to take over a game. He had to make an impact and say, look, this is my team. And I'm not letting you guys get complacent. I'm not letting you squander this opportunity. And I genuinely think a combination of those 3 players and Carson Wentz taking over has saved this season. Because now you've got a Dallas team on a 3-game skid, a Washington team who the Eagles face, who, let's be honest, shouldn't really be any major threat for a team that now finally has some confidence about them again, and the Giants in Week 17, who won't be fighting for anything and could probably do with the extra loss for a draft pick. The Eagles have their identity because after being complacent for a year and taking that culture for granted and taking that drive and that winning attitude and everything else for granted and getting complacent and soft, in my opinion, this isn't obviously 100% fact, it's just one British guy's opinion, they've got it back. Someone has slapped this team around the face with everything they were missing. You go out and you bust to the Miami Dolphins. You lay an absolute egg. You come back against the New York Giants and get embarrassed again. And you get slapped in the face by teams you have so much less, have so much more reason to be underdog, and they make you look stupid. And the players that come up and say, do you know what? Nah, not today. This is my moment. They give the Eagles that back. They're saying, do you know what? We weren't here during the Super Bowl. Boston Scott wasn't here during the Super Bowl. Sidney Jones was injured, for a bit. This is their moment now to come up, and the Eagles hadn't had that all year. So it doesn't matter again to me if it was the Giants or not. That game saved the season for me. It was a turning point for Wentz to take accountability and own this team, and the offense to kind of become molded around him and less around the playmakers. And for the playmakers, more importantly, to mold a game around themselves, to not get caught up in everything else and worry about the outside noise and have there be outside noise. This was the Philadelphia Eagles of old, but it wouldn't have happened if they hadn't have fallen from that mountain. You can't climb back up without falling down. So what the Eagles have done is they've just gone out there, taken someone for granted massively, watched them go off and succeed and gone, damn, what have we done there? Let's not do that again. We're not making the same mistakes twice, and I don't think they will. And I genuinely now, as someone that's just trying to be objective, I think they've got a playoff run in them. I don't know how far that playoff run will go. They're clearly not as talented as some of the other teams in this league. But on their day, if everything goes right and Peterson coaches the way Peterson coaches and the players can feed off the energy as they once did, or even twice did, arguably, they've got a run in them. And I'm all for it. I'm all here for that sense of redemption. Will it be disappointing the Eagles making the playoffs? They don't really deserve it off the back of the first half of the season. But I think they deserve a shot at redemption to say, hey, look, do you know what? If we had all things clicking, this is what we could have done. Imagine what we could have done with these players back or with this player healthy if we hadn't just absolutely messed ourselves. I think this is very much an Eagles revenge tour now. And I'm absolutely here for it. And that is the end of the first segment of the show, guys. We don't have sponsors or anything like that. But obviously, if you're on YouTube, how are you doing? How have you been? This is the end of the video now. We are going to answer some fan questions next on Thank You Next. So if you want to listen to the rest of the show, it comes a little bit later today. If you listen to the audio, it's time to answer your questions.